Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nitai. Nitai is a diminutive or a nickname of Nityananda. Nitai Gunamani, the jewel of virtues, my Nitai, brought a flood of prem, love of Krishna, and inundated the world. Bringing that flood of prem, Nityananda came to Gauradesh, West Bengal. And the devotees drowned in that flood, but those who are very fallen, they floated. So generally you think it's good to float and not drown, but in this case, in the flood of love of God, you want to drown. And those who are not devotees, they want to get drowned. So those who are most fallen, sinful, lowly, Nityananda didn't allow them to escape, but he gave them all love of God on a level which is rare even for Brahma. The unbounded ocean from the ocean of mercy, the unbounded ocean of mercy, Nityananda cut a canal and brought it door to door, the nectar of Krishna Prema. The Lochan says, such a Nitai, such a person who does not worship, is knowingly, even having heard Janbuj Karke, you could say in Hindi, he's willingly, knowingly killing himself. Nityananda is Balaram Tattva, means Guru Tattva. Nityananda gives strength, Balaram gives strength. The gurus in the sampradaya of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, those who are the Paramahamsa Mahabhagavats, they're considered to be either a confidential associate of Srimati Radharani or a manifestation of Nityananda Prabhu, which means they're either in the Shringarasa of Vrindavan, the mellow of love, female to male love, or they are in the mood of a cowherd boy. Guru Tattva in Gauriya Sampradaya means Nityananda Tattva. Srila Prabhupada said about his own guru, I consider him to be, my guru is an avatar of Lord Nityananda. So he didn't, if we see the whole corpus of Srila Prabhupada's teachings, we understand that he's not claiming that his guru, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he doesn't claim that he is Vishnu Tattva, as is Nityananda. But he claims him to be a manifestation of him because he does the same work in the same empowered manner. So, who is carrying the mercy of Krishna, they are carrying the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu. We may say, well, that's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. Yes, it's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. But it comes through Lord Nityananda. He makes it available to everyone. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give that mercy. He also preached, but the really extensive preaching and really nitty-gritty, down-to-earth, down with the people, living among the people and bringing Krishna consciousness to people that traditional members of Vedic society would have nothing to do with. Such people would have to live outside the city. They were not allowed in, if they were allowed inside, but not to the areas where the Brahmanas lived. In some parts of India they were so strict that if you even saw such a person, then you'd have to take a bath before you could do any auspicious activity. If people collecting water, people would collect water from the river. Still something like that is going on. And just as we were coming, we saw there's the spigot is on the side of the road, and mostly women are there with their nowadays plastic containers for collecting water. So people, they used to use actually for bringing large quantities of water, then pigskin would be used. Yes, pigskin. The water carriers, it would be very heavy, filled up with water. So Brahmin, if he's bringing water from the river, that would be for cooking for the Lord or for worshipping the Lord. If they even saw these people called chandalas, then they would throw the water away, take bath and collect some more water. They would consider that water contaminated. But Nityananda went to the area where such people lived and mixed with them and uplifted them. This is the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu. So this is the requirement for an acharya. In this age, he has to be very liberal in spreading Krishna consciousness. If we think we'll only go for the best people, well, there aren't that many good people around. Of course, the principle always works. Yad yad acharti shreshtas tata devetaro janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokas tadanavartate. The common people follow the examples of persons they consider to be exalted or elevated. So Srila Prabhupada, he had a very broad preaching strategy. He wanted mass preaching, and he also wanted preaching to the class. The mass preaching, it was inaugurated. Of course by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but by Nityananda Prabhu. On the basis of understanding that although it's generally understood that someone takes birth in a Brahmin family due to past pious activities. And the whole culture in a Brahmin family is very conducive for making further advancements in religious life. Whereas someone who's born in a Chandal family, it's understood that they did so because of previous impious activities. Everyone gets what they deserve. Swakarma phala bhuman. Everyone gets the result of what they do. Previously, we get the result. But Nityananda, he broke through all these considerations and considered that everyone intrinsically is a devotee of Krishna. They may have been pious in previous life or impious. Everyone is a devotee of Krishna. So if someone is seriously sinful in a previous life, Nityananda considers, no, don't think of that. Just see their spirit soul. They can chant Hare Krishna. If they chant Hare Krishna, they'll be purified. So someone who's chanting Hare Krishna, even if they're from a very sinful background, they automatically become the most pious. These are the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And they were practically put into action by Nityananda Prabhu. So therefore, anyone who is very powerfully preaching the message of Krishna consciousness, they are understood or they're accepted to be a manifestation of Nityananda Prabhu. And Nityananda Prabhu's mercy is working through them. So as an ideal Acharya, Nityananda Prabhu wandered here and there for preaching. He went from place to place. Prem Pracharan ar Pashanda Dalan Dui Karje Abadhuta Karen Brahman. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita describes that for the sake of preaching love of Krishna and subduing the atheists and rascals, for these two purposes, Nityananda Avadhut, he traveled. He went here and there, which means he went here and there with his associates. So he is the Supreme Lord. He's very joyful. He can also become very angry. Balaram, we remember, he would sometimes, in his pastimes with Krishna, sometimes he would act as a mediator or go-between. For instance, when Krishna was about to kill Rukmi, Balaram, he restrained Krishna, saying that, well, you just kidnapped Rukmini, this man's brother, so although under normal circumstances, this Rukmi, he should be executed for his sinful activities, you should just consider that whatever this Rukmi may be, he, in his behavior and his attitude toward you, he is after all the elder brother of Rukmini, who you just married, and she would be upset if you were to kill him just now. So Krishna desisted from killing him. Later on, during a gambling match or the marriage of Aniruddha, Balaram himself killed Rukmi. He had it coming to him because Rukmi was always very offensive. So Balaram, on one hand, sometimes he could be very restrained. He restrained himself from taking part in the battle of Kurukshetra. He didn't want to get involved, although it's a Kshatriya's duty to fight. He felt it was time for himself to retire from the situation. And in this way, he didn't get involved. Even he came at the end of the battle when it was practically all over, and Duryodhana and Bhima were fighting with, and Balaram at that time, he tried to make a truce between them also, but to no avail. So Balaram, he can be very diplomatic in the sense of suing for peace, and he can be also get very angry. So Nityananda, he's also bringing the bliss of Krishna consciousness to everyone, but sometimes he gets very angry also. There's another incident which is described in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita of Shivananda Sen, who would every year bring the devotees from Bengal to Puri, which sounds like there are maybe a few hundred devotees, so it sounds like it's quite a big job to organize all that. Maybe you have to organize some extra bogies on the train if you have to do it nowadays. But in those days there were no trains and no bogies, and organized means you have to walk. So you have to estimate how much distance you'll cover in one day, and then where you'll be, where you can stay, and prasadam arrangements. Even in the modern age, it's difficult to plan such a trip, to make arrangements for everyone. But they were walking, of course. There were no trains in those days. Well, theoretically they could have gone by boat, but no one did. Theoretically they could have gone by boat down the Hugli Bhagirathi, which means Ganga, down to Ganga Sagar, and taken a boat over to Puri from there. But the seas were and still are very, very difficult seas, high, a lot of wave motion and this and that. So the standard method was to go by walking. So one would have to, who was organizing would have to arrange lodge, they'd have to estimate how much distance we'll cover in one day, and then they would have to go in advance or send someone in advance. Shivananda had a joint and big family to help, and others may have helped also, and arrange lodging and prasadam. So it was a great endeavor, but he was very expert in doing so. So, and another thing is, on the way there were many toll keepers, because there were so many people going up and down from Bengal to Puri that the government thought it a good idea, let's tax them on the way. We get some income. And especially at rivers there were poll booths, because if you put it on the road, then people may think, it's true. You see, there's 600 in our group, and if we can save money. But if there's a river, you have very little choice. You have to cross it. So the toll gate was generally right on the river, and the men in the toll booth, they would often try to cheat the pilgrims, or mostly between Bengal and Puri is mostly all pilgrims, but they would always try to demand as much as possible, because the money is supposed to go to the government. But anyway, Indian culture is not only in India. It's not the culture we want to establish. The policy of cheating and hoodwinking. So one time in the evening, it means the devotees had been walking all day, and in the evening one toll keeper at a ferry stoppage, he was harassing Shivananda, saying, no, I need more money, you have to give more. And Shivananda said, look, he said to the toll keeper, you let these men go, men and women and children. Let them go and cross the river and take their lodging, and I will stay behind and I'll work out with you, and then I'll pay you. So it was agreed that all the devotees from Bengal could cross the river, they could take bath and this and that. Well, Shivananda stayed behind and sorted out the how much tax to pay at the toll booth. So he was delayed. So Nityananda went ahead, and Shivananda was delayed more and more and more. And Nityananda became more and more angry and said, look, I've been walking all day, I'm hungry, I want to eat something. He got more and more angry, and eventually he cursed. He said this, Srivas, I curse him. And Srivas' wife became very affected by that. Because Nityananda was thinking that this Srivas, he's supposed to arrange food for us, where's the food? So eventually Srivas, he came... Shivananda. Shivananda came, and he got delayed and this and that, bargaining backwards and forwards. And actually the toll booth men, they want to take as much as they can, and Shivananda wants to give as little. So eventually he came, and Nityananda saw him, and he went up to Shivananda and kicked him in the chest. Said, hey, you didn't feed me, I'm starving. And Shivananda thought, wow, that's great. Because that's the sign actually of being accepted. Who will punish you? Either your enemy or your friend. Either your enemy or your well-wisher. So if you think someone is punishing, if you Nityananda, Shivananda knows that he's his well-wisher, but who's in the position of a well-wisher, just like guru to disciple, they'll only punish someone who they understand can take it. They won't run away. If there's a very intimate relationship, within a family there may be some argument. Up to a certain level, that's acceptable, because it's understood that the bond is so tight, there's some disagreement, they can disagree, but there won't be there's no question of rupture. So, Shivananda said, yes, now I'm completely blessed. Bliss. So he apologized for being and arranged all this. But the nephew of Shivananda, Shrikant Singh, he felt very insane. He said, well, my uncle, he's respected by all the Vaishnavas. And this Nityananda has kicked him, and he was very upset, and he left the party and went ahead to Puri. So Nityananda, he may appear like this. What is the meaning? He kicked Shivananda means that he actually felt that one thing is, he felt that he is my own person, so I can punish him. Another thing, he felt, I am dependent on Shivananda. If Nityananda, the Supreme Lord, is feeling the whole world, but he's waiting. No, I'm not going to eat unless he arranges. So Shivananda accepted that even though I am completely dependent on Lord Nityananda's mercy, he has today behaved in such a way as if he is dependent upon my mercy. And in this way he has actually accepted me fully as his servant. So he was... Nityananda was saying that I'll curse Shivananda I'll curse Shivananda, all his family will die, and his wife was getting all upset. So this is the mercy of Lord Nityananda. He can sometimes get very angry also, as also when he went to a village. There was one Ramachandra Khan there, who was envious of Vaishnavas. He had tried to make Haridas Thakur fall down by sending a prostitute to seduce him. But Haridas Thakur, by the power of his devotional service, had uplifted that prostitute and made her into a great Vaishnavi. She was so fallen that she was ready to seduce a great devotee to try to make him fall down. She was just... how sinful can you get? But by Haridas, his power of devotional service, he instead converted her into a great Vaishnava. Now all our brahmacharis don't go to the brothel in Vellore and try to do the same thing. That's for Haridas Thakur, that's not for you. So this Ramachandra Khan was a very sinful person. Why did he want to do that? Because he was envious of Haridas. He couldn't tolerate that Haridas was being praised by everyone. He thought, why is he being praised? I'm a big landlord around here, everyone should praise me. So he was a very sinful person by nature. And later, Nityananda Prabhu was wandering around Bengal with his associates to spread Krishna consciousness. He came to the village where Ramachandra Khan lived. And he went to the landlord's house. That's what people who are traveling, whether as merchants or pilgrims or whatever, they would go. That's one of the duties of the big man in the village, the landlord, the zamindar or whatever they call them, maybe. And in the zamindari system at that time, that was going on. So that's their duty to receive travelers. So this Ramchandra Khan, he didn't personally come to receive him, to receive Nityananda. He should have personally received him, washed his feet, given him a good welcome, but he sent his servant. He sent a servant to say, well, there are too many people for you. We don't have enough space for you, so you can stay in the Durga Mandap and the cow sheds, and you look after yourself there. So Nityananda became very angry. This is a deliberate insult. He's not receiving us properly. So he left that place without staying, without eating. If a guest comes and doesn't eat, that's considered a great point of very sinful for the person who's supposed to feed them. The guest should be properly fed. So Ramchandra Khan was so sinful that after Nityananda left, he had his men clean the whole place with cow dung and water, with the idea to purify it. Such a sinful mentality. Shortly after that, the village was attacked. At that time, there was a very unstable situation in most of India. And actually, it's still like that in some parts of India. The local government was under the Nawab Hussain Shah of the in Gaur, now Malda district. But there would be different people would it. So another Muslim attacked that area. So different people would try to take control. Just like in some areas of India, for quite some time, parts of what is now Telangana, that was not under government control. That was under the control of Naxalites. So it was like that, and still going on. So he attacked the village. He killed a cow and ate it and cooked it in the place where Nityananda had stayed, because they'd made such an insult to him there. And then he cleaned everyone left the village, they all fled, and the whole village, which was very prosperous, became totally emptied out because of this offense made to Nityananda. So we have to be very careful not to insult Lord Nityananda. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is merciful, and if possible, Nityananda is even more merciful. Nityananda is especially merciful, but we should be careful not to offend. We shouldn't think, well, Gaur-Nitai are very merciful, so we won't bother worshipping them properly. We'll have Gaur-Nitai deities and we'll just... Anyway, they're there, and when we feel like it, we'll do some worship, and we don't have to worship properly because they're very merciful. But very merciful doesn't mean that we have a license to offend them. Very merciful means Alpo Sheva Bahumane Atha Prajanta Prasad. That's stated in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Ishvara Shabhav Bhakten Aloy Aparad Alpo Sheva Bahumane Atha Prajanta Prasad. Means that the Supreme Lord, His very nature is that He doesn't see, or He doesn't, even if a devotee if someone's actually a devotee and he makes an offense, then He won't consider that. But if that devotee does a little service, the Supreme Lord takes that to be very great service and gives that devotee mercy up to the point of giving Himself to that devotee. But if one is not really in the mood of a devotee and thinks that, oh, he's very merciful, then I won't bother serving properly. Or we can do any damn thing we like in the name of devotional service. Well, that's not really a devotee. And that may become offensive. So we have to be very careful in service. We may think we don't have to be careful with Gaur Nitai because they don't accept offenses. But the dust of their lotus feet, which means the devotees who are always at the lotus feet, they accept. So we should be very careful in this matter. He's very joyful, very jolly, but Nityananda can be very, very heavy also. Guru means heavy. So we should serve him very carefully. Pray for his mercy on this day. Especially on this day, we should pray to Lord Nityananda for the mercy to become free from material desires, and like him to preach Krishna consciousness without discrimination, being very merciful to everyone except those who offend Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Hare Krishna. So, where are those books we have to read from? So you can. We can sing this one other song. Akrodha Paramananda. These 3 songs about Lord Nityananda are especially well known among